All right. Well, we can go ahead and get started because we have a jam-packed schedule for you today. Welcome back to Thursday Chats with Diversion Strategies. I'm Rachel Oster, your host for the day and the one that selected the welcome music. And I'm joined by co-host and Q&A connoisseur, Erin Merrill. She likes that title better than attorney. So who is Diversion Strategies anyways? Why are you here with us today? Well, you may know us as your host for these educational webinars we've been hosting for the past year or so, or you may know us from many of the other hats that we wear in this industry. But what we do at Diversion Strategies is that we support the growth and evolution of the waste and recycling industry. And we do that through providing many different services to our wide variety of innovative clients, including policy analysis, grant funding and financing, project and program development. But however you know us, welcome today. And we're glad you're here with us. And we hope that you find this chat today informative and also fun. And, but today what we're here to discuss is grants for growth and financial incentives. And we want to introduce you to the newest educational tool we're rolling out in partnership with two other amazing firms. In just a few minutes, I'm going to run through a live demo of our Grants for Growth database and show you how easy it is and how helpful it can be for your business. But before we get that, I want to introduce to you the Grants for Growth team and our other special guests for today. So our behind the scenes architect who built the Grants for Growth database is Kathleen Amaral of Catagraphics. And also with us today is Laura Ferrante, our resident grant expert, also owner of Waste Alternatives Consulting Firm and the commissioner on the California Curbside Recycling Commission. And also today we have with us Michelle Martin and Marissa Coda from California's branch of the Environmental Protection Agency, CalRecycle. They're here to discuss some of their financial incentive programs, including the most robust funding of organics recycling infrastructure in the country. But first, as promised, and without further ado, introducing Grants for Growth, your portal to potential funding opportunities. Okay, so say you are a Grants for Growth member. We're going to start there. This is how you would access the Grants for Growth platform. So very easily, you're going to just go to diversionstrategies.com. And from there, you are going to click on the Grants tab. And this takes you for our grants, to our Grant for Growth landing page. And this will tell you a little bit about the database and the membership and what is included in the membership. It's also where you sign up for membership. So say you're already a member, you would go to the login page here. Let's put in our username and email, rachel@diversionstrategies.com. Password. And log in. Okay, so here we are on the main page of the grants database. As you can see, we have all of the different filters in which would be important for funding a grant project. The location of the funding, eligible applicants for the funding, the grant type, and let me just push these so that you can see all the different types here, the different eligible applicants, individuals, for-profit, nonprofit, government entities, and then of course all the locations here as well. We also have this search filter. So if you're searching for a specific grant, let's say litter, insert, litter, you can see what pops up are all the litter prevention programs. So say you have a program that is aimed at reducing litter, a container program or something like that. This is a great place and a great way to search for that. So as we see the options here available to members of the Grants for Growth database, we begin to see why this can be such a powerful tool, just beyond just accessing information about grants for your own organization. For example, say your company has a product that would help to improve recycling at school districts. Okay, so school districts are a target client of your organization. You could go in here, well, let's get out of litter, come back to the basic database here. And so under eligible applicants here, we have educational institutions, and you would be amazed at how many are aimed at educational institutions. But let's just click that here for now. So again, you are targeting school districts as a potential customer. Chances are these school districts are not honed in on grants that are available to them for recycling waste. And so, but if you are a member, you are aware of these grants that are available to school districts for diverting more, recycling. And so this is where partnerships can begin to happen through utilizing grants as a tool. You can use our database to help fund or completely fund your business-to-business relationships. Okay, so let's say we're looking up educational institutions. Let's say you want this like right away. Like this is a sales thing. You really want to go after this business now. Okay, so let's click Q2 of 2022 and Q3 of 2022. Let's see what we come up with. So just here, grants available to educational institutions in our industry. Look at the amount and the different states that this is available to. So, okay, so now I'm going to show you the next step here. So you can see how easy it's been so far to filter through this database and find grants that might be applicable to you. And now I'm going to show you where we've taken the grunt work out of the grant work. And this is our summaries page. So let's click on this one, the school recycling grant. So again, because we're targeting schools. Now it's going to take you to the summaries page for this specific grant. This is the work, the grunt work of combing through the different grant documents to pull out the relevant information and really boil down on who the grants are available to, when the application deadlines are. This enormous amount of work kind of boiled down into these summaries. But you can see some of them are a lot more robust, but this one is pretty straightforward and quite vague, so it makes it robust. This is for a grant award of up to $5,000 for public or private schools to increase their recycling programs. Past grant proposals have ranged from purchasing in-school recycling bins. That's another thing that we're doing on the database. We're looking at which grants have been approved in the past, so that we have insight into which grants, which types of projects would be eligible for these grants. So example here is in-school recycling bins were a part of this grant. So you're a container company, you can go to schools and say, hey, did you know Eco Maine is going to be issuing these grants up to $5,000 for containers. Let's go in on this together, use our containers, and you can see where the business partnership can go from there. So plus your Grants for Growth membership comes with a 30-minute call, a free 30-minute consultation with a Grants for Growth grant expert from the Diversion Strategies team. So right here, what you would do, if you see a grant that fits the bill, you want to know more about it, you want to talk to the Diversion Strategies team about applying, you can just click here on Schedule Now, and it will pop up an email to Diversion Strategies where you can go ahead and schedule that, that call. So we tried to make it really as simple as possible and as easy for you to utilize. So now that you've seen just how easy that was to navigate the database and find grants that might work for your business or might work to for some of your customers, I am going to hand it over to our resident grant expert, Laura Ferrante, to highlight a few of the other programs from across the country that your organization might be interested in. So take it away, Laura.
Thanks, Rachel. Let me pull up my presentation here. Okay. So I could go through the database like Rachel just did, but you've all seen how it works now. And I just want to make sure you get the information to see what's available. So we'll just go through this PowerPoint. Okay, great. So how did we get here? How did we get this database put together? We're seeing increased focus throughout the country on recycling and waste diversion. And with that, we're seeing increased investment in developing the needed infrastructure and programs to do that. So California alone, as Michelle will talk about later, and Marissa, is a great example of that, with well over $200 million available over the next 2 years through CalRecycle for waste recycling organics programs. So as Rachel said, we decided to pull all of this grant and financial incentive opportunities together in one place to make it easier for you all to access these programs. Currently, there are hundreds of millions of dollars available to the industry. And what we have in this database between current and archived programs, probably close to 150 programs right in this database, and it's constantly growing. So right now, the database focuses primarily on opportunities to develop and expand traditional recycling programs, organics recycling programs, on food waste prevention, food recovery programs. But like I said, we're constantly adding programs to it. So right now, you'll see a lot of programs targeted at infrastructure development, organics programs, source reduction, but we're adding opportunities related to other areas of the industry as well, such as vehicles, fuels, and related infrastructure, et cetera. So what's in the database? This includes both public and private funding opportunities, though the vast majority of these programs are funded through state and federal governments. We included programs that are open to all applicants, regardless of location, without geographical restriction. And these include programs such as those offered through US EPA or Department of Agriculture or other federal agencies, as well as organizations like the Recycling Partnership and Closed Loop Partners. Of course, then we did include opportunities offered more locally in each state, like the Maine program through EcoMaine that Rachel just highlighted. So how to search it, Rachel just went through briefly how to get through it. I'm going to provide you a little more detail on that. Again, we organized it so that you could really target your initial search through this database. So of course, you can filter by grant type, and Rachel showed the different types of grant programs available: organics recycling, traditional recycling, food waste prevention and food rescue, source reduction, reuse, and repair. You can search by deadline, which gives you application deadline by quarter. And then the eligible applicants, we have a lot of different labels in here. And again, these are broad categories. So for example, we have a label for government entities, which includes state and local entities like cities and counties and municipalities, JPAs, solid waste authorities, other public agencies as well. Other labels include nonprofit entities, for-profit entities, solid waste facilities, educational institutions, as Rachel highlighted, which includes school districts, public and private schools and universities, and then public-private partnership as well. And we've included that label where it's specifically referenced. So as I said, these are broad categories to help you get started on your search. But I would encourage you, as Rachel said, to click on each program if it piques your interest and get more details, to get a full understanding of what kinds of projects may be eligible and whether it may still fit your organization. We see tremendous opportunity in this database for funding through partnerships. So though that public-private partnership label is only used when the grant specifically says that private entities can't apply themselves, but can partner with eligible applicants. But again, many of these programs, you can still have that partnership opportunity, particularly if you're an organization that specializes in technology or equipment or services that can support improved recycling, public education, and market development, and where these are all eligible projects and eligible costs under the grants. So now we'll just highlight some of the grant opportunities that are in this database. We do have a diverse audience here with us today on the webinar, so we'll try to show you a wider range of programs. I will show mostly programs outside of California, and leave it to Michelle and Marissa to go into more detail about what California is offering. So here we have one great example of a public-private partnership opportunity is the Alabama Recycling Fund grant offered through the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, which is a pretty straightforward grant that allows private entities to partner with municipality on projects focused on recycling programs and infrastructure and equipment. And this is an ongoing program year after year. Another great opportunity for partnership might be this Michigan Recycling Infrastructure Grant offered through the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. This program provides up to $1 million to government entities for projects that increase collection and processing capacity. And funding can be used for things like infrastructure and collection vehicles. And again, this is an ongoing grant year after year with a really high grant award amount at $1 million. It's one of the higher ones. Michigan also offers a recycling market development grant for projects that create new markets for recycled materials and projects that commercialize technologies to grow demand for using recycled materials in manufacturing. And this deadline's not till June, so there's still time to apply. If you're a MRF operator, you can receive direct funding up to $500,000 from the Recycling Partnership through the Polypropylene Recycling Coalition Grant, which provides funding for MRF equipment such as optical sorters, robotics to increase processing of polypropylene specifically. And if you're a MRF equipment provider, then again, this is another great opportunity, partnership opportunity for you, and applications are still being accepted in 2022. If you specialize in technology, you may be interested in the Small Business Innovation Research Grant offered through the Small Business Association and the US EPA. This program funds projects that develop and commercialize an innovative technology in the area of sustainable materials management, which includes, of course, among other things, innovative technologies that will improve the recycling system in the US and prevent food waste. And the next solicitation of this grant is expected to open in June of this year. And there are also several non-grant programs in the database, including several in California, such as the Sales and Use Tax Exclusion Program offered through the California Alternative Energy and Advanced Transportation Financing Authority, or CATFA. I'm sure many of you are familiar, many of you joining us from California are probably very familiar with this program. It's quite a popular one that offers a sales and use tax exclusion on the purchase of recycling equipment. Similarly, North Carolina also provides a sales tax exemption on the purchase of recycling equipment. So that was quick, but that should give you a a broad array of the types of programs that we have here and the opportunities for a lot of you coming from different areas of the industry. So now that we've gone through the database and we've seen the demo and we've seen some of the types of opportunities available, we'll turn it over to our friends at CalRecycle to talk more about the grants and other programs offered through the department, since it is such a robust and exciting offering. Right now we're joined by Michelle Martin, who is a Financial Resources Management Branch Chief, and her management team colleague, Marissa Coda. So I'll turn it over to you both.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Laura. You're going to drive for us since I wasn't able to do PowerPoint and my talking points at the same time. So thanks for pulling our presentation up. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here and present information about some of our funding programs today. Marissa and I are going to tag team this presentation. So I don't see the PowerPoint up yet. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. Thank you. So go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. So CalRecycle offers over 20 different grant payment and loan programs to local governments, businesses, school districts, tribes, nonprofits, depending on the program. These programs reduce greenhouse gas emissions, create jobs, provide benefits to disadvantaged communities, and support California transitioning from a disposable economy to a circular economy. We have lots of information to cover and a few examples included in the presentation, but for now, we're going to skip over some of those examples. Next slide, please. So CalRecycle was appropriated $270 million that will be allocated over the next 2 fiscal years to support a circular economy and the implementation of SB 1383, which is to reduce short-lived climate pollutants and include advancing organic waste infrastructure, edible food recovery, and composting opportunities. This is by far our biggest allocation ever. Next slide, please. And this is a slide of our implementation timeline for all of our circular economy programs. I'll wait here for just a moment, but this takes us over part of last year and this next year. And in the next slides, we'll go over these programs in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. So $10 million was allocated for the Quality Incentive Payment Program to increase the sorting and separation of clean loads of PET containers. Registered curbside recycling programs and certified drop-off or collection programs may apply for this program. CalRecycle is currently reviewing applications for the July through December 2021 period that were submitted in February. And payments for approved applications will be made in May. Applications for the January through June timeline are due to CalRecycle by August 10th, and those monies should be paid in October. Next slide, please. I think one back from that. Thank you. Perfect. And then Marissa's going to cover this slide.
So the Organics Grant Program will support composting and anaerobic digestion projects. This is critical infrastructure and will assist with successful Senate Bill 1383 implementation throughout California. We received $105 million over the next 2 fiscal years for this program. We were able to immediately allocate $31 million to applicants that were eligible but not funded due to insufficient funds from our 2020 Organics Grant Program solicitation. We made awards in February to 12 projects. 7 applicants were able to be immediately funded at $19 million, and then 5 applicants will be funded in July after the state budget passes for a little over $12 million. The remaining $71 million will be a part of a new grant solicitation that we anticipate to occur in the fall. Next slide, please. And so this slide shows a list of all those grants that were awarded, totaling approximately $31 million. Next slide. This is an example that in the interest of time, we're going to skip over. So next slide. And this is just another example of an organics project. Next slide.
And I'll go ahead and cover this one. So this is our edible food recovery grant program. The need for edible food recovery has increased significantly because of the pandemic, and the positive impacts to communities are immediate. 1 in 5 Californians are hungry, and 1.8 billion meals worth of still edible food ends up in landfills annually. We received an allocation of $5 million over 2 fiscal years for this program. We received 61 applications with totaling over 13 million in requested funds. And after review, we determined that 9.1 were eligible with eligible costs. We recently awarded 21 projects totaling 5 million to be distributed over the next 2 fiscal years. So 12 of those projects will be funded in current fiscal year, and the remaining 9 will be funded after the state budget is passed in July. And then the next 2 slides, if you can skip those are examples of edible food recovery projects. And I'll go ahead and get into our 1383 local assistance grant program. 60 million was allocated for this program that supports local governments with 1383 implementation. We've been working closely with our local government partners to provide technical assistance and develop a program that will support the regulatory requirements of 1383. Eligible projects include that list that's on the screen. We received 476 applications for the solicitation. We go ahead and advance to the next slide. The first round of awards will be approved very soon and distributed in early May for jurisdictions who met the application requirements and adopted a local enforcement ordinance by April 1st. That's part of the requirements of 1383. And for local jurisdictions that did not adopt an ordinance by April 1st, but are able to adopt one by June 14th, awards will be distributed in September, and jurisdictions have 2 years to complete their projects. And I'll pass it to Marissa for the next slide.
So we received $20 million over the next 2 fiscal years for the co-digestion grant program. These grants will support projects that expand co-digestion capacity at existing public wastewater treatment plants through receiving stations or facility upgrades. We released the application on April 1st with an application due date of May 19th, and we anticipate awards in September. This is a competitive grant program, so we're currently in the dark period and can only answer questions in writing, which we will post on our website. This makes the process fair and equitable for everyone interested in applying. Next slide. And this is an example of a past project that we funded. Next slide, please. So future grant solicitations. We're going to have a new grant program, the Recycling Technology Grant Program, which will provide funding for entities that are in the research, development, feasibility, and pilot phases of projects. $2 million is available this fiscal year. Applications are tentatively scheduled to be released in the summer timeframe. We also have a community composting grant. So these grants target community groups operating small-scale composting programs in community gardens, urban farms, and other public spaces where small-scale composting is appropriate. $5 million is available for this program. Stakeholder input is planned for later this month or next, and applications are scheduled to be released in the summer. The Organics Grant Program, as previously mentioned, provides funding for organic composting, digestion, and pre-processing organic materials. The remaining $71 million will be a part of a new solicitation that will be released in the fall. Next slide, please.
And our last program that I wanted to mention today is our Recycling Market Development Zone Loan Program. This program is designed to stimulate the use of post-consumer waste materials and secondary waste materials generated in California as raw materials used as feedstock by private businesses, industry, and commerce. Priority funding will be given to projects for circular recycling programs that result in a product being recycled into a product that is also recyclable or that has a minimum lifespan of 10 or more years. This is a revolving loan fund, and currently there's 37 million available. An additional 25 million will be available in that fund for next year. Next slide, please. And lastly, wanted to provide you some contact links, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Or maybe we're saving those for later.
Great. Thank you so much, both Michelle and Marissa, for coming on and sharing that wealth of information. And just, it's just so great to see the state of California backing recycling programs and funding the infrastructure needed to help, combat climate change. And it's really great to see. And we look forward to other states following suit and leading by your example. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Okay, well, before we get to the Q&A, and so folks who we'll call you back for Q&A, so you can go ahead and turn off your cameras. We're just going to show how to sign up for the Grants for Growth database. So here we go. Here we are. Okay, so here on the, again, diversionstrategies.com, click on the grants tab. Also, you can go to grants.diversionstrategies.com. But here are our pricing plans. And as promised in our emails, we are going to give you a coupon code right now for attending this webinar. You can use this coupon code. It will be available for the next month using the code webinar. So we'll show you how to do that. And that's for 25% off of a membership on the Grants for Growth database. So here we have two pricing plans. You can pay annually all in one lump, or you can pay monthly at $150 a month. That will drop down with the code to $900 a year and around $110 for a month for the monthly plan. Okay, so say you wanted to start monthly, you just click on here and fill in all of your information here. And here is where you would put in the coupon code. So there you go. You sign up, and everything is secure, of course, and you will then have access to the database, just like we showed you before. You'll create a login and a password, and every month you will get updates from Diversion Strategies and the Grants for Growth team about highlighted programs, as well as everything any new updates we have to the database, which will be happening monthly. As Laura mentioned, things are coming on all the time across the country, and there will be updates every month on the database to share. So with that, I will call everybody back for the Q&A. Okay, Erin, what do we have?
All right, well, real quick, we had a good question regarding the availability of this webinar, and that is, yes, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Diversion Strategies YouTube channel, following the ability to kind of polish and edit it up, and then we'll get it posted. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for any one of us, the grants team here at CalRecycle, put up their email address, but you can also reach us through info@diversionstrategies.com, or Erin at Diversion Strategies, Rachel's at Diversion Strategies. Laura can be reached at laura@wastealts.com. So you reach out to one of us, you get all of us. So feel free to reach out for any questions, comments, following this webinar, including access to the YouTube channel.
Yep, I was going to mention we're also on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and YouTube. So all of our past webinars, including this one, will be on that YouTube channel.
And so as we jump in, I think, Rachel, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about the Grants for Growth service and subscription and what that includes. I know you touched on the updates of grant opportunities not just, here in California where I am, but throughout the country, where you are. And so, yeah, if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes just to talk about the subscription and what that all entails.
Sure. So with the Grants for Growth subscription, you will get access to the Grants for Growth database, which you saw before, has hundreds of different opportunities all across the country for different grants and financial incentives, like the loan programs mentioned by Michelle and Marissa from California. And then, of course, the summaries of them as well, the eligibility requirements. So kind of boiling all of those important but lengthy grant documents into bite-sized summaries. So that is part of the offering, as well as a free 30-minute consultation with a Diversion Strategies grant expert. And then what we're also offering, which I don't think we mentioned before, but there was a great question, is if you do apply for a grant utilizing the Diversion Strategies grant team, you will get a free subscription for the following year. So, so if you are a grant applier, grant application client, you will get free access to the database in the following year. So those are some of the benefits that come with the membership, plus just having access to a curated database of grants and financial incentives for the recycling industry.
Yeah. And if I could also add to that, because we do have some members of public agencies on here as well, is that if you have a grant opportunity, this is also a place that you can advertise your grant opportunity free of charge as well. So it kind of goes both ways of providing this for people looking for grants and financial incentive opportunities, but also if you have that opportunity, feel free to contact us so we can include that in our database.
That's right. Yeah.
We have a great question from Mike, which is, are these all U.S. opportunities or also international grants? And at this time, it is just U.S. We're certainly not ruling out doing international in the future, but probably for at least this first few months of kickoff, the focus will be on U.S. opportunities, both state, regional, and federal, from all across the nation. The next one, I'll bump this to Rachel. Does the database link directly to the grant application websites?
It does not, but you can easily just, put in your Google search tool the name of the grant and it would pop up directly. We didn't want to confuse it with the application link. So that's more of a customer or user experience thing, choice than anything, but easily searchable.
Great. And then a clarification question from Mike about that free year of membership for the subsequent year is that is if you hire the Diversion Strategies grant team to prepare your grant application, not just merely applying to a grant that's listed in the database itself, but rather if you contract for the consulting service for grant application preparation services.
And some of these grants take a lot more effort and time to put together and apply for than others. Certainly, some of the multi-million-dollar grants take quite a time and effort to do that, and expertise.
And a question from Chloe: can one login subscription be used for multiple users at a company?
The answer is no. We have a one user requirement, and there's a two-factor authentication to get into the site. And that's just to protect the content and of the site. And so it would be one user. Of course, you can bring others into free to share the information, but in terms of login, it's just one user per organization.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks, Rachel. If anyone has any other questions on the use of the database, please, again, feel free to pop them into the Q&A or to shoot us an email after. Our next question is on grants itself, and I'll pull in the CalRecycle team as well as our grant experts here, and that's rendering facilities and their eligibility for any of these grant opportunities coming up.
Marissa, did you want to take that one? So currently rendering, I don't believe was an eligible activity for our last cycle. It was something that we were considering in our loan programs, but I'd have to look back and see where our criteria stands for both, and if it's something that we're considering for our future. But I'd be happy to get back to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was an anonymous attendee that asked that, but if that can be directed either directly to the CalRecycle resources or through us, we can help get you that information. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
And then we got a question from our friend Linnea, one of our friends from Recyclist. Is there an option for membership if you're a third party helping folks find these grants and refer them to you ultimately to assist with filing the grant?
We don't have that currently, but open to talking about that sort of business to business opportunity. But right now, we see it as an opportunity for firms that have customers in the space of creating recycling programs that might need grants as a great sales tool. So that's really how we're looking at it there, is that, to get the word out about your programs, you can identify grants to potential customers. And that's kind of how that would work and how we see that helping organizations like yours.
Well, wonderful. Looks like that's our questions coming through. So I think kind of to conclude and wrap up, any kind of final thoughts, not just on our program, but just the rise and availability of grant opportunities for recycling, not just here in my home of California, but throughout the US. Yeah, I guess parting thoughts.
Yeah, I would just say that, as policy is the cog that drives change in this industry, as we all know well here. And with that change comes the need for different types of programs, new infrastructure, and that costs a lot of money. And so, in a state like California, we have represented here that has a big policy push to combat climate change through recycling initiatives, that they're also stepping up to the plate to offer funding and financing to achieve those goals. And so as we see these recycling policies spread across the US, I think we'll see many other states follow suit with asking our industry to step up to the plate to help solve climate change, but also having that extending that opportunity to enter into public and private partnerships and be funded through programs like the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and the Closed Loop Fund that is available in California. I just more evolution in recycling, work toward greater separation and sortation will eventually lead to these programs and infrastructure needing to be funded. So we just see this as the beginning of a whole new frontier of how recycling infrastructure will be funded moving forward. Any other questions? Well, if not, thank you so much again for joining us for this Thursday chat, a little bit different this time, but this is just another educational tool we're rolling out as Diversion Strategies to help support the growth and the evolution of the recycling industry. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget 25% off of an annual subscription. Use that code webinar, and we look forward to having you as members and helping you to search for financing to support your innovative projects and programs. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be in touch, and look for upcoming emails from us on our next webinars and opportunities for education. Bye-bye.